always thought my brother was the dramatic one. He'd whisper ghost stories in the dark, tell me there were things outside the window when there wasn't, and swear that shadows moved if you stared too long. But that night, when the alert came through, it wasn't him trying to scare me. It was the world itself. The sound cut through our dinner like a knife, shrill, metallic, the kind of tone that makes your teeth ache. Every phone lit up at once. Mom dropped her fork, Dad froze mid-bite, and my little sister covered her ears. The screen turned black, then white letters scrolled across. Emergency alert. Rules followed, line after line. I remember them perfectly, burned into my head like they were carved there. 1. Do not look directly at the statue. 2. Do not attempt to photograph, film, or reflect it. 3. If you hear it whisper, leave the area immediately. 4. Remain indoors after sundown. 5. Do not acknowledge anyone who tells you to look. The room was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. Dad tried to play it off, some government prank, but I saw his hands shaking as he reached for his glass. Then the TV flickered without anyone touching it. Static burst, scrambled faces flashing for half a second. Then the same message appeared across the screen. Don't look at the huge statue. That's when my brother laughed nervously. It's just like my stories, he said, though his eyes weren't laughing. They were wide, darting toward the window like he already knew what was outside. I didn't ask the question, but it formed anyway. When did the statue get here? The next morning, the world didn't look the same. It wasn't broken buildings or fires or soldiers in the streets. No, it was the silence. No buses rumbled down Main Street. No kids played in yards. Even the birds seemed to vanish. Everyone was inside, peering out from slits in curtains, afraid of seeing something they shouldn't. But not everyone followed the rules. By noon, videos were everywhere. Grainy cell phone footage before the platform started tearing them down. People zoomed in on a shape standing motionless in fields, in parking lots, in city squares. Always too big, too still. A hood draped over its stone head. It was the statue. In one clip, a man pointed his phone from a gas station. You could hear his breath hitching as he muttered, "It's smiling. Oh God, it's smiling." He dropped the phone, and the video ended in screaming. My brother slammed his laptop shut. "We're not supposed to look," he hissed, like even seeing a recording was dangerous. His knuckles were white. At dinner that night, no one spoke. The alert blared again, this time over the radio. The voice was calm, robotic. Remain indoors after sundown. Do not look directly at the statue. If you hear it whisper your name, cover your ears and retreat. The rules are for your protection. I looked at my brother across the table. His lips moved, whispering something under his breath, almost like he was repeating the rules to himself. Mom tried to smile at us, tried to keep things normal, but then we heard it. Outside, faint, deep, like stone grinding against stone. A voice. It wasn't words yet, just the sound of something massive trying to form them, and my brother's head snapped toward the window. We didn't sleep that night, not because it knocked on our doors or clawed at the walls, because it didn't move at all. By sunrise, the statue was visible from our neighborhood. It loomed on the horizon, taller than any skyscraper, a silhouette of stone cutting into the sky. At first, I thought it was just the morning fog playing tricks, but as the sun rose, it didn't fade. It was still there, a hooded figure so massive that my brain struggled to process the scale. The whole world saw it at the same time. News anchors spoke in trembling voices, pointing behind them at live feeds where the statues outlined dwarfed cities. It wasn't walking, it wasn't tearing down buildings. It was just standing, as if it had always been there. And then came the reports. Ships running aground because sailors couldn't look away. Airplanes dropping from the sky because pilots glanced out the window at the wrong moment. Towns gone silent overnight, curtains wide open, every window facing the figure. The rules made sense now. You didn't need to touch it. You didn't need to hear it. Just looking was enough. That evening, my sister asked the question none of us wanted to hear. Why is it smiling? We all turned to her, but she wasn't looking at us. She was staring through the blinds, toward the horizon. And outside, the statue's grin stretched wider, blood darkening its stone teeth. By the third day, the alerts weren't just words on a screen. Sirens wailed through the city at random, the voice of the government hammering the rules into us like commandments. Do not look at the statue. Do not go outside after sundown. Do not acknowledge the whispers. But people broke them anyway. Our neighbor, Mr. Hale, was the first. We watched from the living room window as he stumbled across his lawn at dusk, head tilted back, eyes locked on the horizon. His mouth hung open like he was trying to scream, but no sound came out. His wife begged him to come back inside, but he didn't even hear her. He never came home. The next morning, his house was empty. No sign of him, no sign of her. Just the door wide open, the blinds torn from the windows, every chair in the kitchen facing toward the statue's direction. Mom taped black trash bags over our windows. Dad nailed boards across the front door. We'll outlast it, he kept saying. These things don't last forever. But the way he said it, I think he was trying to convince himself more than us. My brother sat in the corner, whispering the rules under his breath like a prayer. I wanted to tell him to stop, but the truth was, it helped. The repetition kept me from imagining that grin in the distance. Then one night I heard it. Not the sirens, not the alerts. A whisper, seeping through the walls like smoke, spoke my name. And I realized something the alerts hadn't said. The statue didn't just want us to look. It wanted us to listen. The whispers grew worse with every night. At first it was just my name, soft and low, but soon it started saying more. Phrases I didn't understand. Phrases I didn't want to. Mom decided we couldn't stay. She spread a map across the table, her hands shaking as she pointed to a red-circled area several towns away. They've set up safe havens, she whispered, like the statue could hear us if she spoke too loudly. Shelters underground, no windows, no chance of seeing it. Dad didn't argue. None of us did. The morning we left, the horizon was painted with its shadow. The statue stood farther than I could ever walk, yet it still felt close, looming above the clouds. His bloody grin hadn't faded. If anything, it had stretched wider. We packed quickly. Blankets, food, a flashlight, nothing that made us linger. My brother carried our sister on his back. I carried the radio just in case the alerts changed. The streets were dead. Cars abandoned mid-road. Houses silent, blinds ripped down. Every window I passed seemed to stare outward, like whole families had turned their homes into shrines to the statue. The radio crackled as we drove, static cutting through. Then the monotone voice came again. Remain calm. Safe havens are operational. Do not look at the statue. Repeat. Do not. Cut out. That's when my sister gasped. She was pointing at the overpass ahead. A line of cars stretched across it, all empty, all with doors open. Their owners stood in the middle of the road, heads tilted back, eyes fixed on the horizon. Every single one of them was smiling. Dad slowed the car as we rolled closer. The crowd didn't move. Dozens of people stood in the middle of the road, shoulder to shoulder, staring up at the horizon. Their necks bent too far back, their lips peeled into wide, blood-cracked smiles. They're not alive, are they? My sister whispered. They're alive, my brother said quietly. They're just not here anymore. The statue's grin loomed in the distance, and for a second, I swore it was looking directly at us. Dad pressed the horn. The sound blared, echoing under the overpass, but not a single head turned. Not a blink, not a twitch. Can we go around? Mom asked, her voice sharp, panicked. Dad shook his head. If we stop too long, we're dead. So he pressed the gas. The car crept forward, inch by inch, pushing into the crowd. At first, I thought they'd step aside, but they didn't. They pressed their palms against the hood, against the windows, smearing bloody handprints across the glass. Their smiles never broke. One of them slammed his face against the windshield, leaving a red streak. His lips moved, but no sound came out, only a whisper that crawled inside my skull. "Look at it. Look at it." My brother covered my sister's ears. Mom squeezed her eyes shut. I couldn't move, I couldn't breathe. Dad shouted, slammed the gas, and the car jolted forward. Bodies hit the sides, rolled across the hood, tumbled under the tires. The sound was sickening, but none of them screamed. They just kept smiling. When we finally broke through, the car was shaking, the windshield cracked, the hood streaked with blood. I looked back, heart pounding. The crowd was still standing there. Every single one of them turned in unison and began to follow. The road stretched empty ahead, but the rearview mirror was a nightmare. The crowd was following, not running, not stumbling, just walking, slow, steady, and smiling. But no matter how far we drove, they didn't shrink into the distance. It was like the world bent for them, keeping them just close enough to see. Dad's knuckles were white on the wheel. "We're almost there," he muttered over and over. "Almost there." The radio crackled again. The voice warped through static. "Safe havens are secured. Keep your eyes down. Do not look at the statue. Entry is permitted at sundown. Repeat, entry is permitted." The voice cut out with a shriek of feedback. By dusk, we saw it. A checkpoint, concrete barricades, floodlights, soldiers in masks waving cars through. A massive steel door embedded into the hillside behind them. The haven. Dad hit the brakes hard when the soldiers raised their rifles. One shouted through a megaphone, "Stop the vehicle! Lights off! Windows down!" We obeyed. Slowly, a soldier approached, his mask reflecting the floodlight. "Have you looked at it?" he asked. His voice was flat, mechanical, like he'd asked the question 1,000 times. "No," Dad answered quickly. "We followed the rules. We didn't look." The soldier leaned closer, peering at each of us in turn. His eyes lingered on my brother, then on me. "Any whispers?" No one answered. "Not at first." Then I nodded, my throat dry. "Yes, it says my name." The soldier stiffened. His hand hovered near his rifle. For a moment I thought he'd pull the trigger, but instead he turned, signaling to the others. "Clear them. Let them inside." The steel door began to grind open, revealing a black tunnel beyond. That's when I realized the crowd wasn't following us anymore. They were already waiting at the gate, all of them smiling. The steel gate screeched shut behind us, cutting off the floodlights, the rifles, and the smiling faces beyond. For a moment it was total darkness. Then the tunnel lights flickered on, dim, yellow bulbs strung along concrete walls, humming faintly like they were alive. "Move!" One of the soldiers barked. He herded us deeper, boots echoing on the floor. The air was stale. It smelled like iron and mold, as if the earth itself had been rotting. We passed rows of people huddled against the walls. Families like us, blankets wrapped tight, children with hollow eyes, adults whispering the rules to themselves like prayers. No one looked up. No one spoke above a whisper. Mom squeezed my hand. "We're safe now," she said, but her voice shook. We were led into a wide chamber filled with cots. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. The soldiers posted themselves at the doors, rifles ready. One of them addressed us all. His mask muffled his voice, but the words were clear. "You are in a safe haven. You are not to leave. You are not to speak of what you hear. The statue does not move, but its influence does. Do not, under any circumstances, respond to the whispers." His eyes flicked toward me as he said it, like he already knew. That night, lying on a cot between my brother and sister, I couldn't sleep. The stone grin was burned into my skull. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw it. And then the whisper returned. Not from outside, not in my head, from the cot across the aisle. A woman sat upright, eyes wide, smiling through bloodied teeth. She whispered my name, and every single person in the chamber slowly turned to face me. My heart slammed in my chest. The whole chamber seemed frozen, every pair of eyes reflecting the sick yellow lights. My brother's hand clenched around my wrist, shaking me. Don't look, he whispered. They're not. Don't look at them. But I couldn't stop. The woman's mouth stretched wider, skin splitting at the corners of her lips. She didn't blink. Her voice slid through the room like smoke. Come closer. You were chosen. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run. But then one of the soldiers stomped forward, rifle raised. Eyes down, he roared. His voice rattled the walls. Everyone flinched except her. The soldier pressed the barrel of his gun against her forehead. Do not answer it. Do not repeat it. For a long moment, silence. Then she giggled, high, shrill, like glass breaking. The shot echoed like thunder. Her body crumpled to the floor, blood spreading across the concrete. But her smile didn't fade. And that was when I realized something far worse than her whisper. No one screamed. No one gasped. Not a sound. The families sitting nearby simply dragged her body aside, as if they had done it before, as if this was routine. My brother leaned close, his voice trembling. They don't save people here. They just contain them. And in the distance, through the walls of dirt and stone, I swear I felt the ground tremble, like the statue above us was laughing. The smell of gunpowder lingered all night, sour and heavy. I didn't sleep. None of us did. Every time I shut my eyes, I heard her voice still echoing inside my skull, like she hadn't really died. By morning, the rules were whispered to us again. A soldier recited them as if he were a priest. Do not look at the statue. Do not leave the haven. Do not speak when the whispers call. Do not question the containment. The last one was new. My brother caught it too. His jaw tightened. He didn't say anything, but I could see it in his eyes. He wanted out. The haven was supposed to protect us, but everything inside was breaking. A man too rose down, started humming in the middle of the night. A child laughed at nothing, staring at the ceiling like something was hanging there. And each time the soldiers removed them. No explanations, no screams, just silence afterward. By the third day, fewer cots were filled. Mom clutched us tighter, whispering prayers under her breath. My brother leaned close. They're not saving us, he hissed. They're feeding it. The statue. They're feeding it with us. I shook my head. That doesn't make sense. But deep down, I knew he was right. That night, when the lights flickered and went out for the first time, I heard hundreds of voices at once. Layered, overlapping, too many to belong to the people in this bunker. And through the darkness, I saw the outline of something massive. Stone fingers pressing against the concrete wall, like the statue was reaching down into the earth. The concrete shuddered like it was alive. Dust rained from the ceiling, coating our blankets and faces. People stirred, some praying, some too far gone to even notice. The soldiers shouted orders, their rifles raised at the walls instead of us. That's when I knew they were afraid too. The cracks spread like veins. Behind them, something pulsed. Not stone, not earth. Something softer, almost like flesh. Get up, my brother whispered, yanking my arm. We're not staying for this. Mom's eyes widened, but she didn't argue. She scooped up my sister, and we followed him through the rows of trembling people. The whispers had grown louder, blending into a low chant that filled every corner of the chamber. As we reached the far door, a soldier blocked us. His mask covered most of his face, but his eyes were glassy, distant. You can't leave, he said flatly. Containment must be preserved. My brother didn't hesitate. He grabbed a loose pipe from the floor and swung. The soldier crumpled before he could raise his rifle. We stumbled into a side tunnel. The air even staler here, walls slick with condensation. Behind us, the haven roared, gunfire, screams, and that terrible low rumble, like the statue was shifting above ground. We ran, every step echoing in the hollow corridor. And then we stopped. The tunnel ended in a massive door, rusted, chained shut from the outside. A door meant to keep things in. My brother's face paled. This wasn't a safe haven. This was a pit. Behind us, the chanting voices drew closer. And then, faintly, through the metal door, I heard another voice, whispering my name. The chains rattled before I even touched them. My skin prickled cold as the voice seeped through the cracks in the metal. Open it. You belong to me. It wasn't shouting. It didn't need to. The whisper slid straight into my skull, soft as breath on my neck. My sister whimpered against Mom's chest, burying her face. Mom rocked her, whispering prayers through clenched teeth. My brother grabbed my shoulder hard enough to hurt. Don't listen. It's the statue. It's always been the statue. But it didn't feel like the statue. It felt closer, like something pressed its mouth right up against the door, waiting. The ground shook again. Dust rained down. Somewhere back in the chamber, people screamed, the kind of scream that's cut short like air being stolen from lungs. The soldiers weren't in control anymore. Help me with this, my brother said, tugging at the chains. We break out, we find somewhere else. Anywhere else. But I froze, because the whisper wasn't alone now. There were others. A chorus of voices, some familiar. I swore I heard my dad's voice among them, calling my name the way he used to when I was little. I touched the cold metal. The chains vibrated like they were breathing. Mom grabbed me, pulling me back, her eyes wide, terrified. Don't open it. That's not your father. My brother met my gaze. You open that door, we're all dead. Behind us, the tunnel lights flickered, and shadows stretched unnaturally long. Something was coming. We had seconds to decide. Break the chains and see what called to me, or turn back into the collapsing haven where the whispers already fed. And my hand was still on the lock. My hand trembled against the lock. The voices pressed harder, rising in a desperate, sweet chorus. My father's laugh, my name spoken like a promise, even the woman's giggle from the chamber. I clenched my teeth and ripped my hand away. No, I whispered. You're not him. The moment I let go, the chains stopped vibrating. The whispers cut off all at once, leaving only silence behind the door. The sudden quiet was worse than the noise. It felt like whatever was in there was holding its breath, waiting. My brother yanked me by the arm. Move! We bolted down the tunnel, dragging Mom and my sister with us. Behind us, the chamber collapsed into chaos. Boots pounding, gunfire rattling, voices chanting in tones too deep to be human. The air grew hotter, each breath thick like ash. The tunnel twisted, narrowing until we had to crouch. My sister whimpered, her tiny hand clutching Mom's shirt. Then light, faint natural light, spilled through cracks ahead. We clawed our way forward and reached a grate in the ceiling. Through it, I saw the night sky, black and starless, but free of the yellow bulbs and stone whispers. We're close, my brother said, pushing against the grate. It groaned, rust flaking, but it wouldn't budge. The ground beneath us shook again, stronger than before. A deep rumble rolled through the tunnel, and from behind the door we had left, a single sound rose. A chuckle, low, vast, ancient. The statue hadn't spoken before. Now it had, and above us, through the cracks in the earth, I saw something enormous blocking out the sky, its stone face grinning wider than ever, as if it knew exactly where we were. My brother slammed his shoulder into the grate again and again, rust cracking loose with each hit. The night air seeped through, cold and damp, teasing us with freedom. Almost there, he grunted. Mom held my sister tight, whispering soothing words she didn't believe. I pressed my back to the tunnel wall, listening. The whispers had stopped. That should have been a relief, but silence in this place was worse. Then the ground shifted, slow and deliberate, like something was leaning down on the world itself. Dust poured from the cracks above. I looked up. Through the gap in the grate, the statue's face loomed in the sky. Closer now, too close. Its grin stretched wider than any building, teeth lined with shadows that weren't quite shadows. The stone eyes were angled down. At me, the grate gave way with a screech, clattering into the dirt above. My brother scrambled up first, pulling me after him. The cold night hit my lungs like knives. But when I looked around, my stomach dropped. The world wasn't the same anymore. Houses, streets, entire towns, flattened into jagged stone, twisted upward as if the earth had been forced to bow. People were nowhere. Only the statue, towering in the distance, its smile cutting through the dark. Mom climbed up with my sister. For one fragile moment, we were all together, free of the tunnels, breathing open air. And then a sound rolled across the world. Low, resonant, vibrating through the ground. The statue's laugh. The world itself seemed to lean toward it. My brother grabbed my arm. We can't stay out here. It sees us. But I couldn't move, because I realized something. Its mouth wasn't just smiling. It was moving. It was speaking. And though the sound was too vast to form words, my name was buried in every vibration. The earth lurched under our feet, a long, groaning shift that threw us to the dirt. My sister screamed, clinging to Mom as the trees ahead bent unnaturally, their trunks bowing toward the statue like worshippers. "We move now," my brother shouted. He grabbed me by the collar, hauling me upright. "Run!" We stumbled through the ruins of what once was a town. Streets were cracked open, cars half swallowed by stone. Every surface reshaped into jagged slabs pointing toward the colossal figure on the horizon. The statue's laugh followed us, rolling like thunder. Each pulse rattled my bones, rattled my thoughts. I heard words forming inside the sound, snippets, fragments, pulling at me. Chosen, belong, door. I shook my head hard, trying to drown it out. Ahead, a church steeple jutted from the wreckage, one of the few buildings still upright. Its doors hung open, light flickering inside. My brother pointed toward it. "There, shelter." We ran, boots scraping over broken asphalt. My sister cried the whole way, her voice swallowed by the laughter that never stopped. Inside, the church was crowded with people. Survivors, dozens of them huddled in the pews, whispering prayers, their eyes fixed on the floor. Candles lit the space, casting trembling shadows. The doors slammed behind us. For the first time since the haven, I thought we might be safe. Then one of the survivors lifted their head. Their lips were stretched into a crimson smile, blood dripping down their chin. They pointed at me with a shaking finger. "He's the one it wants." The whispers returned, this time not from the statue, not from behind doors, but from every mouth in the church. Dozens of voices, all chanting my name. The church was alive with voices, every survivor muttering my name like a prayer. The sound filled the air, heavy and suffocating, pressing down until I thought my skull would split. Mom held me close, her nails digging into my arm. "Don't listen. Don't." Her voice broke, and she couldn't finish. My brother shoved himself between me and the crowd. "Back off," he shouted, his pipe raised like a weapon. "He's just a kid." But their eyes, all of them, were locked on me, wide, unblinking, glinting with candlelight. "He's the door," one whispered. "The key," another said. "The statue's blood," a third breathed, lips stretching too wide. My knees buckled. A rush of heat surged through my veins, searing and alien. The laughter outside vibrated in my chest like it was inside me, not the world. "No," I whispered. "I'm not." But the ground disagreed. The floorboards split beneath me, thin cracks spreading outward in a perfect circle under my feet. Dust rained from the rafters. The candles flickered, nearly snuffing out. The statue's voice rose, louder than before, and for the first time I understood it clearly. "My son." The entire church dropped to their knees, foreheads pressed to the floor, chanting louder, faster, until their words blurred into a single roar. Mom was crying, clutching my sister, but even her grip loosened like she was afraid to touch me. My brother didn't move. He just stared at me, his eyes wide with something I'd never seen before. Not fear of the statue, fear of me. The chanting pounded through the church, every survivor's voice merging into one vast echo. My name over and over until it wasn't a name anymore, it was a command. The cracks in the floor widened, glowing faintly red, as if fire licked at the earth below. My legs trembled, but not from weakness, from power. Something inside me was waking. "No," I whispered, clutching my head. "I'm not. I can't be." The laughter outside stopped. The silence that followed was worse than the sound. And then, like mountains grinding together, the statue bent. Its face lowered until it filled the broken church windows. Its smile hung over us all, teeth like cliffs, eyes carved deep and endless. Spoke again, not into the world, into me. You are mine. You were always mine. Mom sobbed, pressing my sister's face into her shoulder. My brother shook his head, his voice ragged. Fight it. You're not his. You're not. But the statue's words dug deeper. Memories flickered in my mind. Things I'd never lived. A vast hand of stone reaching through the earth. A voice whispering before I was even born. Pact. Blood promised. And I was the result. The chanting reached a fever pitch. The survivors crawled toward me on hands and knees, stretching out their arms like worshippers at an altar. I stumbled back, but the cracks followed me, glowing brighter. My body wasn't just mine anymore. It belonged to something larger, something that had been waiting for me to reach this moment. My brother grabbed my shoulders. His eyes were fierce, wet with tears. Listen to me, you're my brother, not its son, not its blood, mine. His words shook me. For the first time, the statue's grin faltered. And for the first time, I realized I had a choice.